marrying up is not saying that women should marry a man with money, that all women should marry a rich man, right? That's not what this call is about. Because if that's what the call was about, I'll just tell all you, hey, everybody go and look for a rich man and all you fix, right? That's not what I mean. That's not actually what marrying up means. Not in a nutshell. This is where I want to start, ladies. I want to start by going into the history of what marriage used to be when it was closer to God's intention for marriage. And so I did some research and went back to the time when Jesus walked the earth and to see what marriage was like then, right? What were the things that Jews considered important and how marriages were carried out in those times, in Jesus's time. So, first of all, marriage in those days with the Jews was a whole process. It wasn't so much the actual marriage, part of it and the wedding too. It wasn't this one day event that you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on to just look back at the pictures and the photos and to have memories, right? It was an actual process, right? And it happened in two stages, right? So I want you all to do your own research as well. This is important, guys. I don't want you to take my word for it. So Crystal, you could put the first two things I gave you, the first two words. So marriage is in those days, it was broken up into two stages. And Crystal is going to put in the chat what those two stages are because I don't want to pronounce it, right? So the betrothal, yeah, why I always get trouble to say that word, and the marriage consummation, right? It was split up into those two phases, but you could go and check the Jewish name and you could check for yourself and see if that is in fact true and what it entails, right? The betrothal was legally binding. It was not about dating, right? So we do it different now. It was a whole legal matter that involved families and even the community at large, right? And so the first part of that first stage, it was a formal covenant, usually arranged by the families and consent by each family. So there was an actual legal document drawn up and everybody had to be on board. You could not get married in those days if your parents, if let's say you as the woman, your parents was for it, but the man wasn't. The man's parents wasn't, right? It wasn't like that. It was an arrangement that was made beforehand by both parents, right? So once betrothed, right, the couple was actually legally married. So on paper, they're legally married. And so to actually break that, you would have had to get a divorce, right? But here's the difference with us now. So even though the paperwork is already done, this is already a legally binding agreement, sexual relationships were still forbidden, right? So this is, that I'm already okay. Mommy and daddy signed me off to this man. I'm going to marry him. But sex didn't happen at that point, right? And if you look in the Bible, you could check it for yourself in Matthew chapter 1, verse 19. The whole bacchanal with Joseph and Mary. Mary was betrothed to Joseph. They did not have sex yet, though. And so when Joseph heard that Mary was pregnant, he was going to try to quietly put her away. Because the marriage wasn't consummated yet, he could have just written a letter and say, I no longer want this, and it would be a quiet situation because the marriage without the sexual relations, it wasn't actually a complete binding legal thing yet, right? And so when Joseph found out Mary was pregnant, he was like, but Joseph come back after the year, he want to prepare a place for her, and you telling me about you pregnant? So, right? It was not sex yet, even though it was legal, no sex yet, right? So how it happened? The first things first, this is the first thing that happened, right? There was something called a bride price. And Crystal, you can put the next word there. I think it's pronounced moha. I'm putting it in the chat so that you all could research it yourself, right? Somebody's mic is on. Just mute that person's mic for me, Crystal. Amos, you need to, right, thank you, right? So there was a price paid to the bride's family. The groom or his family paid a bride price for the bride's family. Well, listen to this. This is what happened. It actually still happens in Jewish marriages, right? It was not them buying the woman. Here what it actually demonstrated, right? The man's ability to provide. That's the first. So the wife's family, they needed evidence. They needed proof, right? All you hear this, right? They needed proof from the groom and his family that they could take care of their daughter. And so there was I think the Hindus do that, and it's called is a dowry. Is a dowry. I don't know if it's a Hindu thing. Is that the right word I'm using? What's the correct word? But I think Hindus still, I think even in Trinidad, that's still done, right? But right, so I was correct. Dowry, right. So this is what happened this is in the Bible days. Jesus walking the earth, this going on, right? Mary, Joseph had to do this, right? So so this is the intent of paying that money. The groom and his family had to prove that they could take care of the bride. It also demonstrated serious commitment because you'll remember they already signed some papers, but everything not solidified yet because they haven't had sex yet, right? So paying that money upfront demonstrated that this is a serious commitment, and it was also honor towards the bride. So what it said, and I mean, you could see examples. I will give you all the chapters in the Bible to go to Exodus 22, 16 and 17. You could write it down. Maybe Crystal, you could type it, Exodus 22, 16 and 17. It will give you examples of an example of this actually happening, right? And so that's the first thing. This is all a part of the betrothal. I hate saying that word because right? This is the second phase. So first you pay. The second phase is the formal agreement, which is called the ketubah. I could put the word there, Crystal. Ketubah. You put it in the chat, right? And in this agreement, this is what was in the agreement, right? I'm not just talking for talking's sake. Yeah? I want you all to think about what marriage is today and how marriage is done. I'm reading this so you all can see how far we've come from what God actually meant. And I'll show you that it is actually God's design for it to be this way. It's not, it's not just so, right? So this agreement had the husband's responsibility. It has his plan for financial provision and how he was going to protect and honor his wife. So that had to be, nowadays we sign the marriage register, but it don't have all of that in it. We go up on the altar and make some vows, right? And you sign that and you say, okay, for better, for worse, for sickness and health, till death we do you part kind of thing. But this was a legally binding agreement where the husband had to prove himself and put certain things in agreement. So you all realize so far everything is on the husband, right? The bride was covered. So it was very important for the bride to be covered in this agreement. In that ketubah covenant, he had to go so far as to say how he's going to provide food, clothing, protection, and even faithfulness, right? It was a legal responsibility, not something that was optional, right? This was a part of the legal agreement. Marriage in those days was understood as a covenant, not a romance-driven emotional decision. We will get to that later, right? Because I ain't saying your marriage is not supposed to be romantic. But guys, hear this, believe it or not, this part of it is more important than the romance. Because hear this, this might sound really controversial to you all, love is not enough. I'll just leave that there, right? Maybe that could be another session. love is not enough, right? I know that's what you all think, but it's actually not the case, right? So, right, so moving on. So that was the second part of the betrothal. Now we go on to the third. There was an exchange of wine where the groom would offer a cup of wine to the bride. And if she drank it, it was like saying, I accept this covenant, right? So it's just a little ceremony. And this actually was echoed later with Jesus in the Last Supper with his disciples. And as I go on, ladies, you're going to see how marriage and how Jesus treats his church, and there's a lot of similarities, which is why the Bible does say that marriage is like how Jesus treats his church, that there's a common thing there for us to follow, right? And so later on, we'll see how that was actually a part of God's plan. Right. And so in the betrothal period, there was a year of preparation. And this is what happened. The groom actually left. So the groom paper signed this. No, this is so far from what we do, right? Paper signed. The groom leaves for a year, right? Here what the groom leaves for, certain responsibilities. First thing, to build and prepare a place for his bride. Now, this place could be in his father's house. When I say in his father's house, like we do it here. I mean, we do it now. Like if you have a family home and there's a piece of land in the back where there was room in the back, you build up something in the back of the house to put your wife in a separate home, right? Or if you had land, you build a house for your wife. But in this year, when the man left his fiance, let's call her fiance, so I don't have to say betrothed all the time. When he left his fiance, he went to build a place for her. He went to work to establish financial stability and to prove readiness to lead a household, right? Again, what did Jesus say when he was leaving? Anybody? What did he say? What did he tell his disciples when he was leaving? Right? He said, I go to prepare a place for you. And when it's ready, good and ready, we will be together, right? Again, marriage is likened onto Jesus's relationship with the church. So when he went for that year, it was to get himself even more ready, right? We do the opposite all year. Hear what we feel when people dating. We feel we have to be up each other's face right through whole day. You're up in each other's face, you know. Oh, I love you, coochie, 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 love up, hug up. Oh, so I want to see you. I'm dying to see you. Oh my God. Oh, can you come over? I didn't see you yesterday. I want to see you. You feel you need to be up in each other's face, breathing the same air every second. Listen, the man went for a whole year. He left his fiancée for a whole year to prepare himself. That's to tell you how serious his preparation was. In that year, it wasn't, let's get as close as we could. Let's just be in each other's face. Man gone to get things ready for his wife, right? Just like what Jesus said. And so I know we think that the more time I spend together with this person, I need to be up in their face every day. Dating it's almost toxic. Where it's like you're on the phone every second, you're WhatsApp every second, you're going out every weekend, whatever. Listen, guys, if you are dating, courting, time apart is good. It's good. It gets toxic when it's just a constant in each other's space, and not only in each other's space, in each other's face, and it's all this physical, thing too, right? It needs to go back to the old days. Oh, you want to marry my daughter? No, I want to see her for the next year. Or when you come back, you better come back with things. And I wouldn't be wrong. Would I be wrong? That was God's original intent, right? That's how it was supposed to be. So when he went in that year, there were certain things that he was expected to have skills, and the skills like to lead spiritually, to establish household order, to represent the family before God, right? All of these are things that a man needs to be ready to do, right? When a woman is establishing a covenant with a man on the spiritual side, right? When she enters that covenant, the man is supposed to be already a leader spiritually. Now, oh gosh, when I say a leader, I don't mean you have to have your own company. I don't mean you have to be like Bill Gates or what's his name, Elon Musk or whatever. but at least you are in a place where you can establish household order, where you can represent God. You have a relationship with God that you can represent your family before God, right? And these things need to be evident before, not after marriage, right? Now, bride, you had a responsibility, right? So we're still in the betrothal stage. And ladies, you had a responsibility too. And this is what the woman used to be doing when the men gone, right? Preparing themselves emotionally and spiritually and physically, right? Now, I wonder how emotions come up here. I don't know how, remember, I don't know why emotions here, right? But somehow emotions is part of the things they had to get together. So this year gave the women time apart now to work on themselves, and you're preparing yourself emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So I don't want to go in this too much because this for the men. So our men are a lot today, ladies. But ladies, you can't be wanting to marry all, marry up. And we know what we mean by marry up by now, right? Marry up, and you just take me as I is, snot in my nose, my head not up, a smelling stink, I can't cook. Take me as I is, you have to take care of me. That is God's plan. No, ladies, you had preparation to do too, right? And so you take care of yourself physically. Here the next thing. Women were expected to learn household responsibilities. Let's see a clap. Guy, any men on the call here? Yes, give a put a clap here. This was part of your part to do, ladies. You had to learn household responsibilities while he was away. And you had a whole year. If you didn't know, you had a whole kilo missing that clap. If you didn't know, you had a whole year to get yourself prepared, right? Learn how to cook, how to clean, how to decorate the house, how to be a housewife, right? Another important thing that this was like, not a test. I wouldn't use the word test. The woman had to keep herself and remain faithful while her husband was gone for that year and keep watching for him, because the exact date that the groom was coming back was not known. It wasn't like he said, well, I'll be back on the 5th of January. They had calendars in those days. Let me not even go into that, right? How you know what day, what week, what, right? But she didn't know when he was coming back. Sound familiar, guys? Does it sound familiar? Don't let the teachers answer again. But does this sound familiar? That when the bridegroom is gone, she's preparing herself and she doesn't know when he's coming back. What it sounds like to you all? Dr. Mel, what does that sound like? The parable of the virgins and the return of Christ. Exactly. Because she didn't know when he was coming back for his bride. Correct. And so she had to be ready. She had to be ready in all. If he came in a moment, God forbid he come and catch you in a bus of pajamas with hole on the side and your hair stick out or whatever, right? Ladies, you have a responsibility. You want good man? Well, you had to be good woman. You had to fit the role too. You want to marry up, you had to be up too in a certain aspect, right? So she had to remain faithful and she had to be watchful. We're still in the betrothal stage. This is stage 4. The wedding, I don't know if I put this word, Nisasuin, Nissuin. This is when the groom is arriving now, right? Nissuin. The groom would come unexpectedly, usually at night, right? He would come accompanied by friends and family, with shouting, with music, with lamps, saying, look, the bridegroom. So the whole town will know that the groom is coming. So it will be an uproar. Hey, look, so-and-so has fiance coming, look, he coming, boy. And it would be a whole celebration, and he would come, and there'll be a wedding procession. The bride and groom will join. After the procession, the marriage had to be consummated. And then there was a 7-day feast after that. So it wasn't a 1-day event, right? Now, these are some things that we don't consider, but these are things that could not happen then, right? A man could not get married if he could not support a household. He could not. So no man would give his daughter to a man who could not support a household, right? he also needed to have discipline and character. The other thing is he needed to be established in community life. And what that means is, you know, we have this thing in when you get married called posting of bands. You all know you have to post bands, right? You all know what the reason for posting bands is? Anybody know why you have to go and post your bands? Like why everybody have to know you get married? But it was important that the man had to be a part of a community so that people could say, hey, don't let know so and so he involved in XYZ. He had to be somebody of character in the community, known by the people around. And how he would be known? Oh, that's the I'm trying to think of a last name. That's the Narayan child. Yes, that's the Narayan son. Yes, he's a good boy. He does XYZ, whatever. So he had to be established in community life, right? But I don't know if that's happened nowadays because everybody waiting to do that. Yeah, everybody waiting to do that. And sex outside of marriage. If you had sex before you were married, unfortunately, you were like out. In fact, you were stoned to death. You remember the woman caught in the act of adultery? You couldn't have sex having sex outside of marriage, then you had to hide and pray nobody catch you, right? Yeah, pray nobody catch you. And so, guys, there are so many similarities to these Jewish weddings and how Jesus treats the church as a bridegroom, a faithful servant who goes to prepare a place. How the woman has to watch out, look out for her husband because he's going to come again at a time that he doesn't know, right? Salvation itself is like a marriage covenant, you know, if you think about it, right? But I don't want to go into that, right? So just going to read these 6 things for you all to get a big picture. And then I'll move on to my perspective, right? Marriage was covenant first and romance second. Marriage was not so much, listen, guys, I'm telling you, in those days, you couldn't even barely hold hands with the person. It wasn't all about this whole romantic thing. It was a covenant. It was an arrangement, a legally binding arrangement made by 2 families, and everybody was involved. It wasn't no hiding thing. And I don't care what my mother say. I don't care what my father say. If your parents weren't involved, you had to go and maybe hide. I don't even know if it was possible to get married in those days, right? Preparation mattered more than all the fluff and the feelings and all the emotions and all the kissy and huggy. The preparation, the making sure that you as a man, you are prepared, and that you as a woman, you are prepared for when your fiance comes back. Those were the things that mattered. Readiness was proven and not assumed. Guys, the man could not, I don't know how many of you are in a relationship here, right? If you were living in those times, your boyfriend, your fiance could not go to your mother or father and say, here what's going on, here what's going on, here what's going on. I have a plan, you know. But the plan, I trying real hard, yeah? I tried real hard with the plan, but what's going on is now I put on my scene now. And the scene it just didn't work out, boy. But I have a next plan, eh? Listen, that family is like on to the next. Who else we have eligible here in the town? Who in the city? They're not taking the sweet little daughter that they raised to put in a man's hand who's saying, I don't have a plan. That was not an option. You could not get married without it. How far we have strayed from that, right? Faithfulness before marriage, a given. Community accountability was also necessary. The groom had to build something before he claimed his bride. He had to prepare something for her. He could not just come and just say, hey, sweet sour Maria, you know, girl, because you're a real nice girl, right? And what we go do now, don't worry, man. I will work it out. Love, all we need is love, girl. We go eat, sleep, and drink love, and everything will be okay. No. If you got married to a man with no plan, you would know that that's not true, right? Eat, sleep, and drink love, that'll work. Love is not enough, right? So here we go. Lies, sure, right. Love is not enough. So now I'm going to share my thoughts on what is happening today, right? it is evident to me as somebody who counsels a lot, speaks to a lot of married people, that women are becoming more and more, I would say, rebellious, and they don't trust their husbands. They don't respect their husbands. Um, they they try to boss their husbands or control, manipulate. And the reason is they don't trust them. They don't trust their judgment. So it's like a survival thing. So you're married to somebody that you don't trust. Why in the world you would do that? I don't know. But you're married to somebody you don't trust them. Financially, you don't trust them. All these things that we read, you don't think they have that together, but you marry them still. And now you're trying in the marriage to make them into the man that he should have been before you marry him, right? And that causes the problems. In many cases, and what has happened today, you'll correct me if you're wrong, women are becoming more and more accomplished, more educated in high positions. Women seem to be the ones that have a drive when it comes to education and career, being successful in the world. You'll find that a woman might be the one who might quicker start thinking about buying a house in her 20s, might start thinking about ways that she could start to save money, put away money, start thinking about different things. In my personal opinion, that's what I have seen in my experience, right? Nowadays, women seem to be more driven in those areas, is what I would say, right? You could correct me if I'm wrong. And it causes a sort of imbalance between men and women, right? And based on what we just went through, guys, God never planned for a man and woman to be married without the man having a plan. Now, I'm not saying the woman can't be a part of the planner, but I just went through that to show you all the kind of responsibility God expects from the man, right? Let me just make some statements, right? Being accomplished as a woman does not give you the right to disrespect your husband or to second guess his decisions. But it raises a very important question, guys, right? Ladies, why marry someone that you already know, that you are already struggling with, that you see that there's evidence that this person, there's a pattern, there's a lifestyle, there's evidence that this person may be struggling in certain areas, may not have a plan, for life. They're just taking it one day at a time, right? What I see many women doing who educate themselves, they have a plan, they have savings, they buy a car, some of them even buy a house, and they get with somebody, you hook up with somebody who has none of that, right? Now, for the men who may start off having none of that, I'm not on you. I'm not saying that you are this horrible person or whatever. But if you are a man and you want to get married, I think you need to start making plans for a wife. Because what your heart's desire should be is as Jesus's heart desire is that when you find somebody, you fall in love with this person, and you say you want to spend the rest of your life with this person. And again, how that happens too is, your desire should be, I want to make this woman comfortable and happy. Is anything wrong with that? The guys who on the call, is anything wrong with that? You meet somebody that you're in love with, you're goo-goo-eyed over her, right? Shouldn't you want to make sure that I make this woman happy? I don't want to get married to her and then cause her to be in a stressful situation that she was never even in before. So you don't want to add sorrow to her life. And even God set it up in a way that when you come on the scene, you're making things better as a man, right? So, ladies, back to you. You have a certain lifestyle that you want to maintain. You're accustomed traveling 3-4 times a year. Your salary is, this is where the marry up comes in, right, ladies? Your salary is $30,000. You travel 3 times a year. You could buy any kind of food you want for yourself. When you go out to restaurants and you open your menu, you're not necessarily looking for the cheapest thing. For the burger, that's $129, right? You could buy what you want to eat. If it's a steak for $250, you can afford it, right? At I worked hard. I educated myself, not me, you. Educated myself to have a certain lifestyle that I want to maintain. Anything wrong with that, guys? Any guy on the call? Anything wrong with that? Nope. Well, I said guys, teacher's pet. Any guy on the call, right? What about marriage? Love is not enough. Love is not enough. Of course, listen, you'd be a fool to marry somebody you don't love. You're trying to have a hard life. But after struggling for years without a plan, you would realize that love is not all we needed. So let me not say no, love is not enough. But love is not the one thing that all we need. People say all we need is love. Everything else will work out. No, that's just not true. It's not true, right? Unless you want to have a marriage with headache and it's a struggle every day. It's where we get the next meal. It's the coming to the rent due. They come into we're gonna get evicted, right? Nobody wants that kind of life. So I'm saying, but I talking to a particular type of woman, right? A woman, somebody's mic is unmuted, Crystal. A woman who has worked hard to have a particular lifestyle, spent years studying, saving, right? Of course you can make money together. Come on, you're gonna get there, right? Hear me out with this point, this particular point, right? I am asking a question to the ladies who have built themselves a particular lifestyle and put a lot of work into their life. Is anything wrong with wanting to maintain that lifestyle? Or to the men, is there anything wrong if that woman wants to come? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Years of studying and money I paying to go to school and things to have a certain lifestyle. And I'm all I'm saying is, when I want to get married, you want to eat your steak. When I get married, and I'm not talking about a rich woman, I'm talking about a woman who has established herself to a particular point where she can afford the lifestyle that she wants, right? And it's her choice, right? Why would you now marry someone who is not going to be able to, you know for a fact, now hear me out, right? Because I know what all you're thinking, right? And I know what every woman probably will say. It's okay if I have more money than him, I would support him. It don't work out that way. How I just be the one talking to them and counseling them. That's not how it does work out, right? I just be the one they call and say, I don't trust my husband, I don't trust his decisions, and it, right? Because the man that you married, there was a pattern before of him not having a plan. That's not just going to change. That is not, marriage does not make that change, right? And so you are, hear what you are doing, ladies. I am not saying that that cannot happen, that the scenario that I presented, that you cannot be a woman who has established yourself, educated, money, whatever the case may be, that you cannot marry somebody who, let's say, does not have all those accomplishments, right? However, you have to note this, that when you are choosing to marry that person, you are also choosing to align yourself, guys.
No,
Gotta mute that mic for Microsoft, right?
Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody that on okay. She was muted before, yeah. She now
okay, right. Guys, right? The two are supposed to become one, right? And what if you marry somebody that has certain limitations? You're joining yourself with those certain limitations, right? And let me explain. You're also choosing to submit because women, you are different to the men because you are called to submit. So you are submitting to their patterns, to the way of life that they have had for the past, let's say, 30 years. You are not submitting to potential. You are submitting to what you have seen them do in their life, right? You are submitting to their pace of life. So if your husband, if there are a lot of women who get annoyed because their husband like to play games, like to play FIFA, and they get annoyed, right? If you meet the man playing FIFA, right? it is unrealistic of you to expect that when he gets married, he will just put away his FIFA in the cupboard and say, well, that part of my life dead. No more games for me. He need a little recreation too, right? But if it's a big part of his life, there's some women who get annoyed at that. They can't understand, how could you be playing games when we don't know next week? We're not too sure how we paying rent and you playing FIFA, right? So this is me telling you this to give you an idea of what you are submitting yourself to, right? And so yeah, before you submit, this is what I'm saying, right, ladies and guys, or they don't get vexed with me. Before you say I do, because I do entail submission to a man and placing yourself under his covering, it's a real thing. There has to be evidence that this man can run a household, that this man can even take care of himself. A lot of men out there looking to get married for some woman to take care of them. That is not how God had planned the thing, you know. His original intent was man prepare, get himself prepared for his, he gave you a whole year apart from her to get yourself prepared. No, I am not saying, please, ladies, don't belittle me by thinking that I'm saying that a woman cannot come into a man's life and, elevate him. I've also seen that. But to be honest, guys, that is more rare than what actually happens to a lot of people. Where the woman struggles now to submit because of her drive and her ambition and what she has accomplished. It's a struggle to submit to her husband. Not that she don't love him, she don't trust him, because there was never evidence before of him being able to take care of a home. There was never evidence before of him being a leader spiritually or otherwise. And now she getting married and looking to make him into all those things. You're gonna torment yourself, as Keelan rightfully said, it's going to be tormenting, right? And so you have to have realistic expectations. That's a big part of getting married. If you choose to get married to someone who you are not seeing the evidence, right? Now, this is why, too, guys, parents used to be involved. Because when people fall in love, they don't see straight. They don't see straight. They don't think straight, and there's certain things that are very important that are overlooked, right? And which is why having the parents involved used to be something that was essential, because the parents, because they love you, they care about you, they want the best for you, and also because they're older and wiser than you, have the ability to see and say, no, that man, no, or that woman can't take care of my child, or whatever that man looked at. Yeah, you all know what I mean, right? So ladies, this is for you. This is what I mean by marrying up, right? And so you could be attracted to a man. He may not necessarily have as much money as you. You might have bought your car and he don't have a car, or you have a nicer car, whatever the case may be. But there are other aspects of a man besides money and job that makes him attractive, and also somebody who, you know, you could say, okay, you know what? This is a man I could see myself trusting. I could see myself submitting myself to him, because yes, he may not be in the same position as I am financially or otherwise, but he's a strong leader, and a strong spiritual leader at that. And somebody who has shown evidence of having proper boundaries, not willing to be, excuse the term, but you all know, not willing to be mobilized by a woman, right? And so if you are a woman and you meet somebody like that, yes, you might be in an elevated position in terms of status and so on. But if he's a strong man and a strong man of God and has leadership qualities, you still find yourself submitting to him, because he just has that aura of being a leader. And you realize you can't manipulate him, you can't mobilize him, you can't control him either, right? And so, but he have to have something. Ladies, what I'm saying is he have to have something. You can't marry somebody who can't stand up for themselves. They have no boundaries. They don't have a job, they don't have a car, they don't have a house. You will end up controlling the man, and you will end up being disrespectful to him. It is what happens, because you and you will also start to resent each other, because you are saying, I marry you, and you you're not doing what you're supposed to do. How come you're not doing, as a man, you're supposed to do this, as a man, you're supposed to do that, as a man? Well, then you should have married a man that showed evidence that he could do all of those things. That's my, that in a nutshell is my point when I say marry now. Marry what you want, not what you potential, not what you want to see after you get married. You are marrying based on the proof of how the person lived their life before. Because when the rubber meets the road, guys, anybody who's married here, one of the most difficult things is financial stress in a marriage. It puts a strain on a marriage, right? Trust me when I say that. And so having your finances in order is important. I'm not saying that you cannot get married if things not perfect financially, but it has to be a plan, guys. It's a family and a home you're building. You're bringing children into the picture. There must be a plan. You don't want to bring children here to suffer. I don't want no little child watching me and saying, Mommy, I'm hungry. You have no bread in the kitchen. That would make me cry. So imagine I bring you here and it had no bread for you to eat. Not even bread, not even dry bread. No, guys, please don't. And again, don't belittle me thinking that I'm saying. I know people go through hard times. You could start off great and things going well. That was the case with myself and my husband. And things got bad after a while financially because, certain things were, but we came from a place of having everything we needed and having no financial issues to having $0 in the bank. God is my witness, I can't lie. $0, right? And so what we do as a couple, we work through, we come up with a plan and we work it through, right? So I'm not saying it's a sin if at some point in your family you go through some hard times, but I'm talking about people who are already not married. I'm trying to help you all to make proper choices, to make educated choices, right? That's all. And again, it's not I'm saying marry a rich man, marry a man who have a nice car, marry a man who have a house. I'm not saying that. He could have a proper plan, but make sure that plan is a solid one. Remember, the groom used to go away for the plan, right? You have to make sure it's a solid plan, right? Men, you have to take the responsibility of getting married seriously. From the time you reach to me in your 20s, you need to start thinking, if you want a wife, you need to start thinking about where that wife is going to live, what the quality of life you're going to give the woman. I think that's only fair because you want to take a woman out, especially if you're taking her out of a place that she had everything. And now you put her in a place now of discomfort. No, I mean, I don't think I'm being unreasonable. You would want, as a man, to maintain at least the lifestyle that she had before. Is that wrong? Please tell me. I need to know if I'm wrong. Talk to me. Yeah, I think it's only fair. If you put yourself in the position of a parent, how come I not right? If you put yourself in the position of a parent, you'll understand that. Imagine I bring up my good girl child, give her everything she wants, send her private school, right? She has the license, she driving car, whatever, and some man come in the picture, and my daughter seen hard times now, calling me to borrow money. Mommy, here I don't know where we're gonna get. Boy. I can't think about it. I'm thinking about it, and I think it's only fair. And so here what I'm saying, the man who is not in a position, I'm not saying don't ever get married, but I'm saying prepare yourself now, get things in order now. That's all I'm saying, Don't just take people girl children and get them and with no plan. So get things in order. It is actually what God wants. Preparation before you actually take a bride. And it's what he did for us as his bride, right? He showed us an example. Guys, God has shown you all an example of how to treat a wife. Yeah, he has shown you all. This is where the scripture comes into context and you all don't believe it and you don't work it by faith. You don't believe it. He that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from God. When you find a wife, when you find that one and you set out to make preparations for her, God is going to give you favor. I'm not asking you, I promise you. How I could promise that? God said it. And so if you are serious about a woman and you want to make her your wife and you have a plan, God says, go ahead, I will give you favor. I'm going to bless you as a man and I'm going to give you favor. So don't think that, well, everybody not at the same stage, and all men, like the statement that Valina made may be true, but if you are serious about the woman that you've chosen and you are a God-fearing man who loves God, and you say, God, I wanna, for some men, that time that they actually step up is when they do find a woman that they love. If it's really love, it drives them to want to provide for her. And if that is really, your heart, God is going to give you favor. He's going to help you. You